There is a timeline very close to our own where the protectors of humanity decided to become its executioners. No warning, no demands, just a single message broadcast to every government on Earth. For decades, we slept safely in our beds because the SCP Foundation stood in the dark to fight the monsters. But on December 16th, 2020, the Foundation realized that the monster was us. To understand the end of the world, we have to start with a paradox. On January 4th, technicians at Site-62C were performing routine maintenance on the containment chamber of SCP-579. The chamber is supposed to be empty, it's supposed to be sealed. But in a flash of light, something appeared. A suit of armor. Heavily damaged, scorch marks on the plating, internal systems fried. They cracked the suit open and found a body inside. Genetic testing identified him as Pietro Wilson. Here is the problem. Pietro Wilson is a Foundation employee. He works at Exclusionary Site 06, and as of this morning, he is currently alive, eating breakfast in the cafeteria, with absolutely no memory of ever wearing this suit. The Pietro in the suit came from somewhere else, a different timeline, and he brought a digital log, a diary of a man wandering through a world where the SCP Foundation declared war on the human race. The file designation? SCP-5000. And the question it asks is simple. Why? In Pietro's timeline, the end didn't come with an explosion. It started with silence. On December 16th, the O5 Council, the 12 individuals who run the Foundation, went dark. No orders, no communications. Then the killing started. Mobile task forces, troops trained to contain anomalies, were deployed into major population centers. But they weren't there to evacuate civilians, they were there to liquidate them. A global broadcast hijacked every television, radio, and streaming service on the planet. It wasn't a warning. It was a resignation letter from the protectors of humanity.
The following is a message composed by the consensus of the O5 Council. For those of you who are currently unaware of our existence, we represent the organization known as the SCP Foundation. Our previous mission was centered around the containment and study of anomalous objects. Our new mission is the extermination of the human race. There will be no further communication.
Pietro Wilson missed the end of the world because he was eating lunch. He was stationed at Exclusionary Site 06, a deep storage bunker. He didn't hear the broadcast. He didn't see the news. The only warning that he got was the sound of gunfire in the hallway. He checked the security feed. He expected to see a containment breach, a monster loose in the facility. Instead, he saw Mobile Task Force Zeta-19. They weren't securing the facility. They were moving room to room, executing the researchers. Men and women Pietro had known for years were being lined up against the wall. Terrified and confused, Pietro scrambled into the nearest secure lab. Inside, he found the only thing that could save him, the Absolute Exclusion Harness. This isn't just a suit of armor. This is a masterpiece of anti-Memetic technology. It doesn't just make you invisible to light, it makes you invisible to information. You can stand directly in front of someone, and their brain will refuse to process that you are there. You become a hole in their universe, a ghost. Pietro put on the helmet. The HUD flickered to life. He walked out of the lab. He walked right past the death squads. He watched them reload their weapons over the bodies of his friends, and they did not even blink. He watched out of the heavy blast doors of Site 06, hoping to just find safety outside. But when he left the site and stepped out onto the surface, he realized the horror wasn't just inside the bunker. The sky was choked with smoke, the horizon was burning. The Foundation wasn't just purging the staff, they were purging everything. The Foundation has thousands of anomalies in containment, nightmares they have spent decades keeping locked in the dark. On December 16th, they opened the doors. In North America, they deployed SCP-173, the statue. SCP-173 is Object Class Euclid. The special containment procedures for SCP-173 are that it is to be kept in a locked container at all times. When personnel must enter SCP-173's container, no fewer than 3 may enter at any time, and the doors will be locked behind them. At all times, 2 persons must maintain direct eye contact with SCP-173 until all personnel have vacated and relocked the container. Description of SCP-173 is as follows. It was moved to Site-19 in 1993. The origin is yet unknown. It is constructed from concrete and rebar with traces of Krylon brand spray paint. SCP-173 is animate and is extremely hostile. The object cannot move while within a direct line of sight. Line of sight must not be broken at any time with SCP-173. Personnel assigned to enter container are instructed to alert one another before blinking. Object is reported to attack by snapping the neck at the base of the skull or by strangulation. Personnel report sounds of scraping stone originating from within the container when no one is present inside. This is considered normal, and any change in this behavior should be reported to the acting HMCL supervisor on duty. Usually, this creature kills when you stop looking at it, but the Foundation didn't just let it loose. They used it for crowd control. Pietro's log describes the blinkers, swarms of duplicates sent into subway tunnels and shelters. They herded civilians into the dark, and then the lights would go out. The logs would say the snapping sounds were loud enough to be heard from the street. But physical monsters are slow. To kill 7 billion people, the Foundation needed speed. They turned to Memetic warfare. They used the internet. Pietro found these flyers taped to walls. He saw the images trending on social media. It was a picture of SCP-096, the Shy Guy. If you see its face, even in a photo, even for a split second, it knows. It enters an enraged state and begins running towards you. Nothing can stop it. No bunker, no distance, no amount of personnel. Think about that. The Foundation turned our curiosity into a weapon. They knew that we would look at the notifications on our phones, and the moment we did, we were dead. It was a massacre via algorithm. There was one hope left. The Global Occult Coalition, the GOC. The GOC is a rival organization, heavily militarized. They dug in at a fortress called Nats Ford. They had the tanks, the mechs, and the reality anchors to hold off the Foundation's army. They were winning. Until the Foundation grew tired of the stalemate. They flew a heavy transport plane over the GOC base and emptied the cargo hold. They didn't drop a bomb. They dropped SCP-682, the hard-to-destroy reptile.
Pietro passed through Nats Ford days later. There was no battle, just silence. The GOC's tanks were torn in half like wet cardboard. The most advanced military on Earth had been eaten alive. But amidst the slaughter, Pietro noticed something that chilled him more than the monsters. He watched a squad of Foundation soldiers taking a break. They were sitting amidst the bodies of the civilians that they had just killed. They weren't laughing. They weren't crying. They weren't angry. They looked relieved. Pietro writes in his log, "It's like they had just finished a hard day's work, like they were doing these people a favor." This is the key. This is the clue Pietro didn't understand yet. The Foundation didn't hate us. They were saving us.